Hello and welcome to Nikolai's genetics lessons, and the first problem is a scientist has observed animals in particular habitat for some time. She noticed that the slowest gazelles tend to fall victim to predators more frequently than faster ones. Over the time, she noticed that the gazelle herd on average runs faster. She is observing, and you have to choose one of these answers. Instead of showing you the right answer right away, let me explain each term here. For example, what is balanced polymorphism? Imagine we have one locus and three genotypes for this locus, which can be homozygous dominant, heterozygous, and homozygous recessive. Now imagine that recessive allele is defective allele. So dominant allele is normal allele, and this is what we see, for example, in sickle cell anemia. People who has two recessive alleles would suffer from this disease. People who have two normal alleles would show normal phenotype, and under normal circumstances, this is going to be the best phenotype. But if we consider Central Africa, where we have malaria, then this genotype would be at the advantage, because people with this genotype would suffer less from this disease, which is fatal in many cases. But under such circumstances, neither homozygous recessive or homozygous dominant would cease to exist because of the heterozygous advantage. Heterozygous, when they would mate with each other, would produce 1/4 homozygous dominant, 1/4 homozygous recessive, 2/4 heterozygous. So they would come eventually to the certain balance between these three genotypes. So this is what we call balanced polymorphism. Now let's talk about disruptive selection. Imagine that here is a graph which represents certain population, and usually it looks like bell-shaped curve. Let's say this is population of birds, and due to, for example, scarcity of food, now imagine that some birds start to specialize in eating insects, and another group would specialize in eating, say, nectar. And of course, this would lead to certain changes in the beaks, and after a certain period of time, we would see that we have many animals that specialize in nectar only and have, say, beak like this, and another animals that specialize in eating insects, and their beak would look like this. And we will see very few of the intermediate phenotype, and mostly we would see only birds that are very different. Those initially it was one group of birds, but due to selection pressure, they now probably living in different habitats and eating different type of foods. So eventually this would lead to speciation. Answer B, heterozygote advantage. Imagine now that we have two lines, pure lines of animals, and say genotype of one animal would be capital A, small b, capital C, and small d. So this animal is going to be homozygous at all four loci. Now imagine we have another animal that is going to be also inbred line, and genotype would be small a, capital B, small c, and capital D. And if we cross these two lines, we are going to get a progeny that is going to be heterozygous at each locus. From parent 1 would get dominant allele, from parent 2 recessive allele, from parent 1 would get recessive allele B, from parent 2 dominant allele B, from parent 1 would get dominant allele C, from parent 2 is going to get recessive allele C and dominant D and recessive D here. As you see, progeny of these two pure lines would be heterozygous at each locus. And usually animals that is highly homozygous, we call them pure lines, and result of the inbreeding. And the progeny in this case would be what we call hybrid and would show hybrid vigor. If we consider simple Mendelian genetics, simple dominance, for example, this animal would be at certain disadvantage, having two recessive alleles for the locus B and for the locus D. And this inbred line would have certain disadvantage at the locus A and loci C. But this animal would show the progeny of these two inbred lines, which is hybrid, would show dominant phenotype at all loci. So this is going to be example of the heterozygote advantage. And the answer A, directional selection, as you probably guessed, would be the correct answer. Take a look. Here's the graph. Here's the initial population, which, for example, shows here average speed of the gazelle, and those animals which would be slow would be on this side of the slope, and which would be faster would be on this side of the slope. And here we will find average speed. And of course, those whose speed is faster would survive better. And that means that with each generation, we will see a shift, those who survived and gave a progeny. And our curve would change to something like this. So we see here a shift in the speed, average speed of the average gazelle in this population, which also leads to better survivability and fitness. In this new population, we're still going to have bell-shaped curve, but average speed would be faster than the previous generations. So our choice is answer A. Over time, she noticed that the gazelle herd on average runs faster. She is observing directional selection. And next question, a new mutation allows a cheetah to run faster and hunt down more prey than its slower counterparts. This mutation increased of the cheetahs, and you have to choose the correct answer. Now you already know that this is going to be answer A. It increased fitness. The faster would be cheetahs, the more food they can get, and this would help them to survive to the reproduction age when they would give a progeny. This is what we call fitness. And this is all for today. Thank you for your attention. Please subscribe for my new videos that I post almost every day. And see you in the next video. Goodbye.